Hello, this is a Lee Enfield, still in the original factory wrap. Here's the original factory label. Rifle number 4, Mark II. This has a normal butt length. They were manufactured with 3 different sizes: short, normal, and long. This was manufactured by Royal Ordnance Factory for Zachary. It was packed in February of 1955, and it is a brand new rifle. The wrap is in very good condition for being nearly 7 years old. You can see the serial number hang tag. This indicates that this rifle falls squarely within the Irish contract range. The muzzle was cut here for importation purposes. Due to the legal requirement in the US, they had to put an import mark when importing. This one was imported by Century Arms International. Like I said, the wrapping is in good shape, but the rear sight has poked through the wrapping here. We'll see if that rear sight, if any finish has been rubbed off it. There also was originally a factory label right on the end of the buttstock, and that was so they could see what the rifle was when racked up. This rifle has, however, lost that label sometime during storage. Here is the other side of the wrap. As you can see, they also had to make a cut here to verify the serial number upon importation. The wrap is fully intact except for those 2 cuts at the muzzle and the rear sight. These rifles are the finest number 4 Lee Enfield rifles ever produced. They were produced with beech stocks and a Suncrite baked on enamel. The only variation I have noticed in these rifles is at the rear sling swivel. Some of them use the wartime simplified stamped sling swivel, and others use the milled. I have not found the reason for the variation, or if it's a serial number range or what it is, but we will see what this rifle has after we get it open. I was actually incorrect about it being missing that label. The label is actually underneath the brown paper wrap. As you can see, I started to remove the paper wrap and this label was under there. This is the label I was talking about that I thought was missing. Let's get this thing unwrapped and let's see what's in there. Alright, as you can see, I have the brown paper off the wrap. You can see that hang tag. And see, there's this hard wax wrap here. That's either cosmoline or wax impregnated paper or fiber potentially. And then you can see there is individual wraps around the rifle of this is a gauze material. And you can see they dipped this entire thing in cosmoline after wrapping it up. You can see the drips where the rifle was drained after being dipped in cosmoline. You can see that this stuff just peels up like that once you can get something underneath it. I am going to peel all of these wraps and then I will bring you back. As you can see, it was wrapped with 4 wraps around the rifle and 1 wrap with the label around the buttstock. You can see here we have it just about ready to take the wrap off. Alright, I'm going to see if we can get the first peek. That cosmoline is sure stuck on there. Look at that wood. Look at that buttstock. Looks like there's a little bit of corrosion in there along that butt plate. Let's hope the rest of the rifle has not got damp. Alright, here is the moment of truth. You can see the action body. And once we get into the action body, we will see if the bolt is polished and not rusty. It's looking good. so far. Alright, look at that. Quite cosmoline soaked, but I am happy with what I see so far. Looks like it is practically a time capsule. Opened up nearly 70 years after being wrapped. Other than the corrosion on the buttstock, which I fear, or the corrosion on the butt plate rather, I feel like we'll be able to clean that up and take care of it. Let's get the rest of this done. I will show you really quick. We have the milled swivel rather than the stamped, which makes me happy. If anybody has information, whether you have a stamped or milled swivel, and maybe just the start of your serial range, this is a PF, so it's earlier than the UF rifles, so I'm curious on whether they change to a stamped swivel maybe later in production. Here she is, out of the wrap. A lot of cosmoline, but I think we will be in luck that protected all the internals and metal parts. See that hang tag? What a beautiful rifle. Mark I veneer backside, or rather micrometer backside, made by Fizzackerly, as you would expect. That butt plate, slightly corroded it looks like, but I think it will clean up. I will tell you guys, these are certainly more valuable if left in the wrap. I bought this one as a shooter. I am very excited to shoot it. But if you buy these for investment purposes or for historical reference, I would leave them in the wrap. It seems like the metal, the steel especially, has been protected. Even with this one, it seems like it may have gotten in wet conditions, looking at the butt plate. But it seems like the cosmoline and wrap has done its job on the rest of the rifle. You can see the serial number is matching on the magazine. There's some markings on the rifle down there. The rifle also has a serial number on the stock. Just a wonderful condition rifle. We'll see how she cleans up. From what I can tell, this one seems to be bedded properly. We will notice more as we get it taken apart. You can see I got the magazine out. See the line of cosmoline on the bottom. It's a lot of cosmoline in the follower. We will certainly disassemble that and the entire rifle. I also have the bolt out, and you can see the bolt head does not overturn alignment with the rib period, which is great. They can overturn some and it's still within spec. Has a number 1 bolt head. We'll disassemble that and get it all cleaned up as well. But it looks quite amazing. Doesn't appear as if this one, well, it could be polished. We'll see once we get it taken apart and cleaned up. There's a lot of cosmoline inside this action. You can see very well preserved. You can also see trigger guard. Doesn't appear like I have any markings on the socket, but we will look as I clean it up. Beautiful beechwood stock. I think this beechwood stock is going to turn out really, really nice. Not a mark on it that I can see, but we'll know more as we clean it up. Alright, I have got the handguards off. I will mention, if you work on any gun, but specifically something this pristine, certainly use gunsmith screwdrivers. Otherwise, you are at risk of damaging the screw heads. You can see there's a lot of cosmoline even under the stock, and that even transferred to the inside of the handguard. But let's keep on getting it taken down. Another thing I will mention, it isn't as pertinent on number 4s, but it is best to remove the forestock before you remove the buttstock, just in case the buttstock bolt is sticking into the forestock. You can crack your forestock bolt if you were to twist this. As you can see, we have our forestock off. I will also mention, when you take the forestock off, do not pry down from the front of the forestock. You want to push on the back here and bring it down square. If you pry, you can damage those draws and destroy your buttstock or your forestock. See, this rifle is properly bedded. You can see our bedding points around the action body and at least a third of the way back. You can notice we have nothing touching the forestock all the way through until the foretip. Looks like we have proper even foretip pressure. That's perfect. That's at what you would expect. I don't see any markings inside this stock yet. We'll see as we get it disassembled further. You can see the milling is done very well, especially compared to a wartime number 4. This is a Mark II, so it is split at the rear. And you can see the trigger guard bedding looks perfect as well. So that is really good. All in all, this is shaping up to be an extremely nice rifle. Let's look at the action body after we have it taken apart. You can see trigger hangs from the action. That's the Mark II. You can see a lot of cosmoline stuff in there. I mentioned the buttstock bolt, but actually that isn't really pertinent to these, but the SMLEs, specifically that use the square buttstock bolt, you want to make sure you remove the forestock before removing the buttstock. These, it is actually not that pertinent, but I would just get in the habit of removing the forestock first, just to prevent you from making a mistake on the older design. Alright, have it wiped off a little bit here. See, it's really cleaning up, not any damage to it. I have noticed one thing though, some of the screws show a little bit of signs from being put in. For example, this butt swivel, it is the milled type, and that makes me happy. I like the milled type better than that wartime simplified. But you can see on that screw there, there's a little bit of damage from when they installed it. That's interesting. But a few of the screw heads I've seen show a little bit of use. I found this leather wad inside the buttstock, and I'm curious to see whether there's one installed on it or not. We'll see once I get the bolt out of the stock. So I ran a patch through the bore, and you can see, look at that plug of cosmoline that came out. It's a lot of cosmoline. Looks like there's a little bit of green, maybe from copper that was still in the bore. Let's see what that bore looks like on the inside. Alright, so I got a lot of the cosmoline wiped off. I'll tell you my plan of attack here. What I'm going to do is wipe as much of the cosmoline off as I can. I got a little bit of tape around that just so it doesn't scratch the surface as it's sliding around. I'm going to wipe as much cosmoline off the wood as I can, and I'm going to get the wood just a little bit wet with mineral spirits and try to scrub all that cosmoline out of it, and then we'll refinish the wood with proper raw linseed oil. See all the pieces here? Those are some cleaning patches. Pretty messy business here, but the rifle is pristine. I'll bring you back in once I get it all cleaned up, and we'll take a look at all the markings and everything we can see once it's clean. Here's the action body all cleaned up. You can see the markings on the socket there. You can see all the markings on the action body. Machined quite nice. You can see that pivot there is marked F. Trigger guard has a few markings on it. On the barrel here we have some markings as well. See that marking on the top of the bolt there? It's a number 1 bolt head. I think I mentioned that before. The sight, the adjusting knob is marked F on the top of it. Cleaned up quite nice. Bring you out to the end here. And you can see the front sight block is one of the split kind. Those are nice because you can loosen it up and then move that front sight blade with ease without having to tap it. Here's the other side of the action body. Socket does have a marking right there. You can see there is some machining marks on the barrel. I don't think there's any other markings up here, but I'll show you this other side of the sight block. That front sight is marked 1H on the top. It's hard to see on the camera, but the top of the actual blade is marked 0.03 in F. Here's the magazine. See the serial number. This magazine has an F52, and on the back it has an F. There's a little ding in the front sight protector there, but it was there before they sun corroded it. Here's the front band marking there, and then on the other side another marking, F54. This is that rear swivel. I cleaned all this stuff up in Hoppy's number 9. I didn't want to go too aggressive. I don't know how acetone would affect the suncrite. Some other markings on the bottom of the barrel. I will mention, if you use Hoppy's number 9, don't soak your sling swivels in it. You notice the copper brazing there? That's how they attach these. Scrub them off and then dry these off, otherwise that Hoppy's will turn that brazing green. Here's the woodwork all cleaned up. I lightly scrubbed this with a plastic brush and mineral spirits to get all of the cosmoline off the wood, and any spots that had dark stains, such as the top of this buttstock here. I also lightly scrubbed it. You can still see a little bit of a dark stain there, but I didn't want to go too deep with anything. I'm not really one for using acetone on any of this. I just want to get the cosmoline out. And so I scrubbed all of this with mineral spirits. I didn't steel wool it or anything. I wanted to preserve the original sheen that it originally had. It's a little bit shiny right now. We'll see how it finishes up. This is after about 6 coats of raw linseed oil. I'm going to continue doing more coats. You can see that raw linseed oil is still wet in there. I'm going to continue doing raw linseed oil until it no longer soaks it up, and that will keep this woodwork stable. These often were soaked in the armory after they were produced, before they were sent out for issue, so that way these four ends wouldn't end up warping and swelling and cracking with water. So you want to apply a lot of linseed oil to them. I use pure raw linseed oil. I don't use any boiled linseed oil as it wasn't originally used. See the markings on the stock there. I also believe my handguard here has a few markings in it, although they're quite hard to make out. See, on the bottom of the buttstock here, there's also some markings right there on the wrist. Another one right there. And then this is the front handguard. You can see the markings on there as well. I think this woodwork is going to turn out great. There is only a few dings. There's one ding that I have found in it. Stuff like that you could steam out if you were really particular about it, but I decided to leave it be. There's another little spot right there, and that's the only two spots I found on this entire rifle. I'll take you back once I get the stock completely finished, and I will reassemble the rifle and we'll show you what it looks like all out of the wrap, all clean and ready to go out to shoot. Here it is reassembled. This is after 10 coats of raw linseed oil. I will likely add a few more coats in another month or so after the oil is completely cured in this. Raw linseed oil takes some time, so it's best not to add too much at once, otherwise it'll take twice the time. Turned out quite nice. The bore is in excellent condition. Had a lot of copper in it. You can see some of the green on my paper there from all the patches I ran through. They must have test fired it and never cleaned out the copper, but I removed all the copper and the bore is in pristine condition. The butt plate that was corroded, I soaked that in salt, vinegar, and baking soda and scrubbed it off, and I just soaked it for about 20 minutes and it cleaned right up. Here's the top of the rifle. Sight is in excellent condition. Here's the other side of the rifle. So you can see I added a sling to it. The sling's actually a 1942, but it's in really good condition and I think went well with the rifle. Maybe someday I'll find a 1955 Mark sling to add to this rifle to make it a little more correct. I will also mention this leather wad. This actually doesn't get installed on the bolt. It is to go over the bolt head to cushion the bolt head from the oiler. The only Suncrite wear I found on this rifle is right where the safety contacts the receiver there, but the safety's off, it's covered up. Here's a quick look at the import marking once it got all cleaned up. Well, I think we're ready to fire the first shots that have been through this since the test firing nearly 70 years ago. First shots through this in almost 70 years. Here it is out of the wrap. See how it goes.